Year of the Mecha returns. And we got more Neph.
Hey, it's me. Get another week of me. What's up?
Yeah. And we're here for something that we both particularly enjoy. Obviously, like, as I've kind of made a disclaimer about with this whole series, like, what games I will and will not play for Year of the Mecha. I have, obviously, like, unfortunately had to nix, like, playing any sort of strategy RPG mecha games, which includes Super Robot Wars. I know, it seems sacrilege, but don't worry, because we got something even better. How about that, but real
Yeah,
time, and you actually pilot the robots?
yeah, we got something that's a little more stream friendly, let's say, than
Yeah,
Super Robot Wars.
yeah. Although it's still all Japanese text, so we're not really going to be able to give, like, a decent, like play-by-play of what the hell is being said.
Probably not.
Ah, bam
Nope.
presto.
I remember there's like I think before this, they tried making a like beat 'em up with the Super Robot Wars roster. I
Yes,
think
with,
it's
like, the weirdest name ever called Real Robot Regiment.
yeah, that.
It's like, they went for something that was, like, really, like, alliterative, but calling it Real Robot Regiment just, like, completely belies the point that, like, the robots on the cover were supers.
Yeah.
Whereas here, this is the real Robot Regiment right here. I mean, we got fucking Gundam Wing kind of headlining this opening video. And Aura Battle Gunbean. This is definitely the series where, like, if you're particularly fond of 80s era mecha anime, you're going to be well served with what Ace has to offer.
Also, Nadia.
Nadeshiko. Unfortunately,
Nadeshiko, not Nadia.
Yeah. Unfortunately, not the TV series, the one that's actually good. It's the fucking Prince of Darkness.
They always have to put in the Prince of Darkness movie.
I don't know what the reason is. Oh yeah, and then of course there's Brain Powered.
Oh yeah, that.
Can't forget that Tomino classic. So yeah, 80s and 90s represented heavily in here. Got old Dragon R as well.
And oh yeah, Zeta Gundam.
Yep. And, like, this game, as it will show, not just Zeta Gundam, but also Char's Counterattack. Like both Zeta and Char's Counterattack, I guess just because of how close to each other they already are in the UC timeline, it makes sense that they would acknowledge both units.
Also, fuck yeah, Lesnar.
Yeah,
This show I
Lesnar.
still have. Yeah, Lesnar.
And Elguy.
And like, yeah, we are. This isn't just the Gundam show. We're going deep.
Like major entries from the real robot revolution of the 80s. And yeah, there he is. Like I said, we had Char's Counterattack representation, because what self-respecting crossover mecha game wouldn't put the new Gundam in there?
Yeah. Fun fact, I think there's like 2 Super Robot War games that didn't have Char's Counterattack.
Which
They were, like,
seems shocking.
Yeah. And it felt like something was missing. It didn't feel right.
It's like, especially the Super Robot Wars games, like, there is something wrong if you feature the new Gundam and its attack animations aren't taking up 50% of the entire game's budget.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but I was actually, this was a brief thought that I wanted to get back to when just kind of going over, like, the units that were being featured in that opening video, and just the brief moment of disdain when like this game just shows that they have, like, Nadeshiko, the Prince of Darkness, even though the one version of Nadeshiko that anyone ever wants really is the TV anime. And I'm like I feel like there's like context I might be missing. Like, is this another like Seed Destiny situation where it's only included in Super Robot Wars games because Banpresto actually knows how to rewrite that scenario to make sense?
Maybe I'm not like I think
like this is the sort of thing where I wish I could like be able to talk with people that maybe even like people that were like that are Japanese and like kind of more familiar with the genre because they've been following it like for a lot longer than we and the rest of the world have. Like, I want to know if that's like if there is something in these crossovers that takes the idea of the Prince of Darkness movie and actually improves on it.
Probably. Like, I know it was SRWW on the DS, that first DS game, where they did TV
Nadeshko, yeah.
Nadesco, and then they went straight into Prince of Darkness for the second half. But here's the thing: when they got to the second half, you know how like the games, they tend to keep characters who die alive. Guess who's one of those characters who live? It was Guy. Was his name Guy?
Yep, Guy Daigoji. Who I believe was not his birth name, but Guy Daigoji is the name of his soul.
Soul, exactly. So you got him.
I fucking love the ADD dub from the Nadeshko.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you just have him living for the movie, and then he's just all like, "Yo, what are you doing? What? This isn't the soul of a man." You know, that hot-blooded.
So, like, Akira, why did you just turn into such a fucking edgelord?
Yeah.
Wait, it's stuck on a black screen. What the hell?
Oh no, what's happening?
Oh fuck, this hasn't happened before. We're running this off the hard
side.
No. Unfortunately, this is like my only option for playing the game, so we're just gonna have to. Well, hold on a sec, everyone.
What?
I gotta reboot this. I'm going to assume that I was like just taking way too long on the menus, trying to like because we were like talking about all this stuff. Because I had like loaded the game up before from like a new game, and like it went into like the opening in the first mission just fine. I guess I was just lingering too long.
Maybe.
Playing PS2 game backups off of a hard drive on original hardware works pretty well 99% of the time. Unfortunately, the 1% still has to show up every now and again.
Sometimes these things happen. There's not much you can do about it.
Yep. Which I might as well also, because I think like once I get this loaded back up, I'm also just gonna like skip whatever cutscenes happen like in the opening like story crawl and just go straight into like the gameplay. But I guess as far as what the plot is of Another Centuries episode, if anyone is curious about that, because I mean like we can't really follow it bit by bit. We're not that good at understanding Japanese, if at all. But basically, you know, the whole setup not too dissimilar from how it is in most Super Robot Wars games, where it's like they have to come up with like some justification for why all the heroes and the villain factions in these different like completely separate anime series are somehow in the exact same universe. And basically kind of as a similar setup to Gundam, where it's like humanity has moved out and colonized, like built colonies around the moon and Mars, and and rather than just having the Earth Federation, basically like kind of all the protagonists, like factions of all these different anime series, have formed like a super federation known as the United Community of Earth, the UCE. You know, which sounds fine, but obviously that does mean that that unfortunately like there are various rebel factions that have emerged out of this.
Yo, is that the Gaspent?
Yep. So we got like a Super Robot Wars OG representative here. Not its original pilot though. because like in this game, your main character, it's weird. They're like this game. It comes off as a bit odd compared to the games that come after it because it focuses on having like a nameless protagonist and a bit more like sim management of your crew and whatnot. That feels like it was being made with the lightest bit of Armored Core sensibilities, which is not surprising because this game is made by From Software.
Yeah, like I only played the second and third game, so I have not played the first.
Yeah.
So this is gonna be new to me.
Yeah, which is why, like, kind of as a difference between like this game and how it's eventually going to be when I show off the sequel games, is that I am actually showing off this game from like by pressing like the actual new game option, because how it handles like your progression going from mission to mission is worth showing off, whereas it's not as big of a deal in the sequels. So like Ace 2 and 3 will more or less exclusively be in free mission mode.
Yeah, because those games are they're definitely just more straight up mission based from what I remember.
And faster than this.
They are
this
way
is pretty
faster.
fast.
Yeah. I might have played a lot of the multiplayer of Ace 3 too, which got really fast too.
Yeah, these games did have multiplayer. So with this game, for anyone watching this that might think that something about this feels familiar to another game, yes, this is reminding you of Zone of the Enders. How could you tell? What was it? The complete, utter disrespect and disregard for gravity?
Yeah, it's maybe they're just a little inspired by Zone of the Enders, just a little.
Yeah, it's fair to say it's only a little inspired because it also manages to surpass it in just about every way. Because that's like the big thing with this particular game, and like, well, not just this game, like this series on PS2. I should also preface, because it did get a PS3 game, and we don't like to talk about the PS3 game.
We don't talk about the PS3 game. I don't even remember the PS3 game.
Yeah, we don't talk about Ace R at all. But like the thing with Zone of the Enders, like anyone that like followed like the stream that I did of the second runner like weeks ago, like that one was more just for me to kind of demonstrate that, like, as kind of popular of a niche game that is, and how much of it is, you know, a genuine improvement over its predecessor, because Zone of the Enders 1 is a bad game. Just straight up, it is. It only has the concept, but nothing else really of, like, note to how it's designed. But it didn't, but like, the sequel didn't really do much to fix or, like, fully address the flaws that Zone of the Enders always had, which was, it was effectively a virtual on game with the added benefit of free vertical movement, but it didn't know how to, like, properly balance and, like, link the ranges between, like, long range combat and, like, short range melee. And by contrast, possibly because From Software just during this time period knew how to make mecha games in general, that they had 3 different series under the belt. Or, well, like, more than that. I mean, like, some of their games were bad, but, I mean, like, most of Armored Core was good. They did Metal Wolf Chaos. They did this following that. And the idea was that they solved that problem. Like, ranged and melee combat all work as they should in this, because dashing and boosting, like, serves the purpose that it needs to in this kind of, like, big cubic 3D environment where projectiles are flying everywhere, and you need boosting to matter enough that it's like a tactical decision every time to dodge your enemy attacks while getting into, like, the best, like, vector speed and position so that your attacks have the best chance of connecting.
See, I was nodding the whole time, I'm also
I know, it got
silently
very
disagreeing-
inside baseball right there.
disagreeing with everything about Zone of the Enders 2, and I'm just going to leave it at that. Because that is one of my favorite games of all time.
Look, I'm not discrediting the things about Zoe 2 that are still cool about it, you know? It's just I have reason to enjoy playing another Centuries episode a whole lot more compared to that.
That's fair. So wait, are you fighting? Are these the Leisner guys you're fighting now?
Elgheim.
Not Leisner,
is-
Elgheim. Yeah.
That is correct. Yeah, like this whole thing is just basically going through like the tutorial mission, which you know, like I've just been naturally kind of like doing all these different control functions where like R1 and R2 are your ascend and descend controls. Pressing X activates like your main thrusters, which is like it's a toggle instead of something you have to specifically hold. And of course, having this activated like this will have an impact on like your turning radius and things like that.
Right.
So, you know, if you're moving slower, you can move a lot more precisely and even have an easier time like lining up your shots, but that makes you an easier target. So that's something important to balance.
Yeah. So like how much of this game is you like in the guest spent and versus like other robots? So far,
Not
like, in
for
the single
long,
player.
because you do recruit more like player units to your side, so you get to then like arrange what unit you're going to play as in the coming missions. Although the thing to note, and an important thing I want to show off with why I'm playing this game like in the regular campaign instead of free mission, is because there is an actual limitation in place for available units that you can bring with you. Basically, you can only take a maximum of 12 units on your ship, and that's after you have upgraded like your hangar capacity, essentially.
12 units.
Yeah, because
And
like
there's
that's the whole thing. Like in this game, like to briefly get back to like the story context and whatnot, is that there is like the current conflict and why there are all these like sort of rebel groups kind of standing against the UCE is that there is like a brand new energy source that has been discovered or manufactured. I forget exactly. But it's heavily volatile, useful for a lot of things, and naturally the bad guys all want it for their own nefarious purposes. So the UCE creates its own special task group called Londo Bell, which has like its own carrier ship, not unlike White Base. And that's where like the sort of the limited hangar capacity comes into play, where it's like you're like throughout the campaign you'll be able to choose if you want like certain units to join you, but that's only if you have the space for it.
Oh, so okay.
Yeah.
And there's way more than 12 units in this game, I bet.
Yeah, I forget the exact number. I just know it's not anywhere close to the amount that is in Ace 2 or 3, which are both like approaching 100 or over 100, I think in the third game's case.
There's a lot of mechs in that third game. There's so many.
There's so many, and like a good portion of them are unlockable like outside of the story. They're post-game. That's the crazy part.
Was there like a lot of like they were there were a lot of like side mechs too, like in that game too, right?
In 3?
In 3, yeah. Like you had your main mechs and then you had your side mechs.
Side as in like are you referring to as in like,
You know,
there are
like-
variations on the base model?
Well, I mean things like the gun tank or the gun cannon.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, there was I believe it was like the full armor Gundam was like one of them, which is like super like bulked out and slow. Was definitely one of those. I think kind of a similar thing with the because when they introduced Macross units into the series, they also included like the full armor pack for like the VF1J.
Yeah.
So there we go. We actually completed the first 2 missions. Yes, that was 2 missions. It may not have looked like it, but that's kind of how like these are set up. Like if you were to go to these missions in free mission mode, you would be seeing the individual ranks and like score percentages on the per mission basis. But in this game and Ace 2, it's like missions are kind of split up in a way where they're all part of like the same operation, as it were. So you're basically going from like one part of the operation to the next, and that factors into like your total score. Like, well, I think it really only factors in like showing you the score for the last part of the operation, but it's like in the background kind of recording what your score and rank was for all the previous parts.
Mm-hmm. And of course, like, not like Garika said, none of us speak Japanese, so we have whatever the context of the story is, we don't know.
Yeah,
we only have the basic.
Yeah, just that there's an energy source. Bad guys want it, causing problems all over the world. We got to stop them. And yeah, and unsurprisingly, it is like pretty much every major villain faction from like all these series represented are all getting in on it in some way. But here we are right now at the kind of like the intermission menu.
Oh.
Yeah, those are our ace points in the top right corner. Yes, you can tell that this was like a maxed out save file I downloaded off the internet, because no way was I gonna grind up to like to 6 9s right there.
It's a lot of grinding.
Yeah, but we can go into the right here into the the tune-up menu, as it were, and these are like our these are our 2 starting units. We obviously started with the Gespent Mark II, and then this one right here is the Cloudbreaker, which is from nothing of any worth. We can't upgrade the stats like in this menu yet, not until like later or whatnot. Like the middle option I know is at least for like doing repairs, because that's something you have to like spend your points on in between missions. Those same points that you also have to use to like upgrade like the capacity of like your ship for storing units, as well as increasing the efficiency at which like your units will be repaired and things like that. I mean, there's also like a little dictionary atlas, which is like, like if I knew Japanese, I absolutely would be reading over all of this for most of my info, but unfortunately I cannot. So we'll just go into the briefing and see where we gotta go next. Right into mission 3, where we gotta chase after like a high priority target and shoot it down. Like there are other enemies to get in our way, but this one, I know for a fact, it's like you just gotta chase after this one and blow it up fast. I don't think it leaves the area. I just know that it's that it just like moves around. So yeah, that's the Gespent, and this is the Cloudbreaker. It's a FromSoft original unit right there. Yeah, we're also spending some of our points to give us like some support units, as it were, but we can't obviously fill out all these slots. We only just got the 2, so we'll show off what the Cloudbreaker has to offer.
I feel like there's less. I don't know. Like I've only seen the first 2 stages, but it feels like there's less story in between.
Yeah. Like it's not as focused on like the anime presentation as the later games would go into, because again, it felt like there was still some of that Armored Core mindset trying to like get its way in here, which is weird because I do think ultimately in terms of the mission variety that this game is probably like the unsung best example of that, because the later games after this, like yeah, they obviously like increased like the roster by a lot, added so much more stuff that could be done with the with the game systems, made the combat so much faster. But for whatever reason, the missions in Ace 2 and 3 just became demonstrably like much simpler and more repetitive. Mm-hmm. Another Centuries episode has like surprising amount of like more specific like types of like mission goals than you would expect for a game where just a lot of the core fun behind it is, look, I get to pilot the robots from my favorite anime, and I get to blow stuff up with it, and it feels great.
That's definitely why I played a lot of those games.
Yeah, it also contributes to, like, especially by the time, like, Ace 3 rolls around, I think it's, like, probably, like, the most import-friendly of the 3 games, because there is, like, almost nothing in that game that can't really be parsed out over time as far as what you need to do in a mission. Like, it's not going to throw, like, an objective at you where it's, like just doing the normal thing you're expected to do will cause you to fail. Here, you kind of got to be a bit more careful with it sometimes. Because stuff where it is like, yeah, sometimes you'll have to chase after high-priority targets and stuff like that, or capture specific points. There's one, actually, later in the game where everyone's favorite pacifist, Relina Peacecraft, is giving a speech. Like, she's basically the official spokesperson for the UCE, like, basically the one that's, like, trying to, you know, make sure that they're on the right path and not becoming, like, warmongers or anything, or as bad as, you know, like, the villain factions that are all causing problems for everyone. And naturally, this, like, causes, like, her enemies to try and, like, sabotage her speech, like, send in, like, mobile suits and other shit to attack her. And, for that particular mission, it's way late in the game, so we're not really going to be able to show it. But the idea is that the speech is being televised. There are giant robots coming to try and disrupt it. So you have to stop the robots from getting there without letting the press know that you're there. Because that would look real bad if known ballsy pacifist Relina Peacecraft, speaking for the UCE, had a bunch of highly lethal robot bodyguards protecting her with overwhelming violence.
That's pretty funny.
It's probably like one of the more... It is, like, I legit do think it's like the most standout mission of the game. Even if it is the sort of thing where, yeah, it does have a very specific, like, way of playing it that you have to go through that kind of limits the sort of, like, the freedom of movement that you would want, considering how these games are set up. But at least it's something, you know? Like when we get to the later games, it'll be kind of hard to, like, understand that there are even potentially, like, mission objectives in Ace 2 or 3 because they all blend into each other.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem that a lot of the later SRW games have, where it's like a lot of the missions just kind of blend in together because they're all kind of the same after a while.
Yeah, especially when you have to deal with the patented Ben Presto reinforcements.
Yep.
Which speaking of, at least when it comes to all the Ace games, it's like, this is probably the one example where if Ben Presto reinforcements do show up, I don't dread it, I relish it, because just controlling the mecha in real time like this and how fast the game moves, it's like, finally, I get more things to blow up.
Yeah. Yeah, at least you get, like, the advantage of having direct control of a mech. You get to fly around and do all the cool moves.
Yeah. Admittedly, this one's not kind of the best for it. But I'm not too fond of the Cloud Runner, the Cloud Breaker. Yeah. I guess for what it's worth, it controls better than the game it came from. Which is like, that's what it is. This wasn't a unit made originally for another Centuries episode. This was made for, like, an original Xbox game by From Software that was, like, so half-baked and shitty that it's like, I barely even like remember it unless I specifically see this unit. It's called Murakumo Renegade Mech Pursuit.
Huh.
As the title implies, it's it's kind of built around the idea of being like, hey, like chase after high-speed mecha and take them down. But that's kind of it, and it doesn't control well enough to justify the speed that it tries to move at.
Oh no, that's the worst when that happened. When that's the case.
Yeah, because just like I appreciate mecha games that have like a sort of rigidness or heaviness to how they control to best kind of convey the fact that these are not humanoid characters, like they're vehicles, and they require a different approach to controlling efficiently. But that also means the fine line between good and bad controls, like in that context, is even thinner than it is for all other standard game types. So when I come across a bad mecha game explicitly because of like when like controls are too stiff or too heavy, even for me, that's how you really know it ends up being a bad one. Like even in something like this, with what I said, like rigidness and heaviness, like Another Centuries episode, well, like we both know it. It's not a heavy game. Like it's super fast, but it's also not like the most reflexive, like a platinum game or anything like that. It has that rigidness akin to like what you would have in something like Virtual On.
Yeah, and speaking of like heaviness, I especially remember in the in 3 at least when you're using Shin Getter, and Shin Getter's not a fast mech. It's a really it's kind of slow, and its attacks take forever, but they do a lot when they hit.
Yeah, those attacks are godly, and it's like anytime you take Shin Getter into a mission where it goes into a boss fight, like you just hang back and activate the Stoner Sunshine and just let it go to work.
Yeah, and then just watch everything die.
Yeah.
I remember, like, even was G Gundam in the second one?
Yes, it was. And it was in the third one with Master Gundam, although they were the post-story unlocks.
Yeah.
I do like the launch sequence that you always have when going into a mission. Like launching from the Londo Bell ship, and how there will always be like slight, like it's mostly the same for a lot of the different units because they're real robots, but sometimes, especially in later games, you'll get like weird variations on it, you know?
Like, what kind of variations? I'm having trouble remembering them myself.
Mainly G Gundam, where Domon just snaps his finger, calling for God Gundam to show up, and it just lands on the top of the ship.
Yeah, I remember that. That was pretty good.
Yeah. And I think there's even one where this is more in regards to kind of how it's presented in dialogue, where I think it's Aura Battler Dunbean, where like he's waiting to get like the approval from the ship to launch, when realizing that like just because of how different the unit is, that it doesn't need that kind of authorization to launch from the pad like a mobile suit would. So it's just like, fuck it, we'll just leave.
Yeah.
And I forget how it goes for like the brain-powered units, but I would not be surprised if they just teleport straight off of it. That seems to be their thing.
I like how you're just shooting helicopters, like just real-ass helicopters.
Yeah. And with ease. This isn't like Armored Core, where like the bastards are so hard to keep in view of your aim window.
Absolutely.
One thing that is a bit difficult that you have to keep in mind with how the lock-on works in this game, more so compared to the rest of the games on PS2, is that when you pass over an enemy, as you see right there, it disengages the lock-on for whatever reason. Ooh. Like it doesn't keep it in view even when you go behind them, which is that's sort of the thing where it kind of makes it a bit frustrating for me as someone that has been so much more used to Ace 2 and 3, and like some of the maneuvers you're able to pull off in those games because the lock-on is more persistent. Because stuff like this, like I was boosting away, but and when I pressed the button to fire, I was not shooting it at the target itself. If this were the later games, if I were to do that, I would actually, like, turn my mecha around, start boosting backwards slowly, but I would have extremely steady aim as a result. So there's, like, just weird things about, like, how this game functions, where it's like, yeah, it's ultimately still the same controls that the rest of the PS2 games will obviously have once we get to those. But it really is just bizarre how, like, there are these kind of, like, weird limitations that they realized after the fact just didn't need to be in here.
Yeah. This is the, I guess this is their first game like this. I know they made, like, FromSoft have made mech games before, but
yeah,
one of this feel, I guess.
Pretty much, yeah, because it had been predominantly Armored Core, was like, and it was like classic Armored Core, like the same gameplay style they had stuck with all the way to the end of the PS2. So having that as kind of like their baseline, like this was a very different setup, you know, because we got like a hard lock-on system. You don't have to constantly hold the button to boost, like it's just a toggle. Fuck you, Rocks. Oh yeah, and of course we got melee combos, which neglected to mention, but like each unit does have like their own melee combos where when you get in close range, just kind of like Zone of the Enders, it's based on range. But like once you're in a close enough range, you can do melee attacks. However, you get different follow-ups depending on like whether or not you decide to hit the square button again, if you hit the circle button for a different attack, or in some cases, if you're able to pull it off, is like land the first attack, and if you get it within like a proper like time window after a delay, which I'm kind of fucking up now that I'm trying to do it subconsciously, but sometimes it'll get you like even different melee combos.
Yeah. Oh, also, like, another thing about what I was talking about, how this is probably, like, the first attempt at making a game like this. There's also none of the customization that you get from an Armored Core either. These are...
Oh, yeah.
You know...
Yeah, these units are just all, like... They are exactly the units that you would recognize them from their source material.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, there are stat upgrades, but in another instance of this game doing something with them that the later games kind of rightfully realized didn't need to be that way, is that the unit upgrades, like how you boost their stats, is like, it's kind of bizarre. Like, it's a weird give and take system where you have 8 stats, which you can look at it as like 4 groups of 2, with like each of the stats. Oh yeah, there's 4 vagina coming in.
Hi, Quattro.
He came here just to laugh at us.
The only time Char had his shit together, very briefly.
Yeah, before just the fucking bullshit that is, like, the zombie family's beliefs in Xeons just had to make him think it was okay to drop an even bigger colony on Earth.
Listen, Zeta fucked him up pretty badly.
The impression I always get is that Zeta fucked everyone up, both living and dead.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I've mentioned it. I don't remember if I mentioned it, but I watched like Zeta again recently last year.
Yeah.
And when I got to the ending, I had to just lay down for a while because I was like, oh yeah, that's some peak Toman, all right.
Yeah. But look at that.
Actually,
now we got the Hyakushiki on our team. We can finally start mixing things up.
got some actual.
Yeah.
Hey,
Even
Dunbine.
yeah, and this is where we can recruit even more. Like we got like the Dumbean units, got the Estevalis units, Black Selena. This one I forget how to pronounce. But then of course we got my boy, the Blue Comet itself, Leisner. It's got brain powered right there.
Oh, I wish Leisner would come back more often.
Yeah.
Such a cool design.
Yeah, we passed G Gundam
Yep.
units, plus
Ooh.
Tall Geese, plus Epion.
Yeah.
Dragon R units, Zeta, Elgime.
God.
And look at that new Gundam. Yeah, let's just get like the best, like more popular units that we can think of. Like, yeah, we'll throw in an Estevalis as well.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else do you think would be like a good one to represent? Like, well, I guess here's the question: what's your favorite Gundam Wing unit? Because we got
do you have to ask? Oh, go ahead.
Because we do have like the main 5 plus Zex's unit and the Epion, so up to 7. Based on what I recall from like your kind of fan-made mecha design, I'm going to assume it's the Death Side.
I mean, listen, you know me. People should know me. You should know what my favorite Gundam Wing design is. It's Death Side. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah, but like, why did I even think to ask?
Of course you did.
Oh, well, you know, it's been a while, so.
It's also Heavy Arms as the second one after that.
Oh yeah, because I mean, who can, like, you cannot deny the appeal of more Daka.
Yeah, exactly. Heavy Arms is just, what if Gundam was built with more guns?
Yeah, just all the guns.
Just every gun.
I'm trying to think of just one more. Yeah, screw it. We'll just throw in the Tall Geese, and I think for now we'll just kind of like leave it at 8 units to start.
Yeah, I'm so used to these games just using endless waltz and not original Wing.
Yeah, that's the it's a wild thing, especially since I've always liked the TV anime designs for the Gundams more than like just the direction they went for Endless Waltz.
Here's a Gundam with actual real wings. How does that work? Shut up.
Yeah, it was always like that. What, you don't believe me? Shut up.
Shut up. Actually, could I make a request on who to add?
Go ahead.
I just put in the Zeta Gundam. Is there? Did we pass by the Zeta Gundam?
Yeah, we'll add it.
There we go.
There we go. Yeah, and I'm trying to remember all that. So yeah, here's the carrier, and as you can tell, because again, this was 100% save file. Like all these stats are already like maxed out. So that means like with all the stuff I was adding into like the to like our unit roster, we can include like a total of 12 to to carry with us. And like the idea, I believe, is that, you know, you're only able to swap out like units in your roster at specific points in the campaign anyway. So naturally, like after this point, we'll go through a few missions where we don't get the luxury of being able to swap out at another rendezvous point. Like we basically have to deal with who we got on the roster is who we're gonna have to make do with and hope they survive.
Jeez, yeah, that is so different from the other games.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's
Wait, could you lose your units?
Yeah. So let me see if I can remember exactly like what the 4 stats are. Because here's what I was talking about, where I said you could think of it as like 4 groups of 2. Because notice how there's like different costs, but it's not all different for every single one. Like this is for defense and like basic speed. This is like vernier or like boost, like basically like your boost meter output, and this is like for your generator, which is like the output on like your meter itself for activating boost. And then there's movement ability and turning ability, and then weapon power and weapon reload times. And the idea is that whichever one you dump points into will impose a penalty on the one that is directly associated with it. So you could make your weapons as powerful as possible, but once they hit 0, you're going to go through an even longer wait time for them to reload.
Yike. Ooh, that's rough.
Yeah. And you can only choose, I believe you can only choose like 5 categories to put upgrades into as well. So they're like, it's an upgrade system where it feels more like they want you to like make specialized builds out of them, rather than simply grinding out points for the purposes of just making them like function at 100% capacity.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say that at least hold on. And that's also the other thing as well. When it comes to weapon power and weapon reload, it's not just for like a general stat, because like you can kind of see like on the right side, as it were, like there's the the top category with those 5 bars is for like units, like that's what it's for. And that's what these first 6 upgrade categories affect. Whereas here, when you select weapon power or weapon reload, it brings you to the sub menu where you choose which of your weapons for that unit you want to upgrade the power or reload speed for.
Oh, yeah.
It is an infinitely more complex upgrade system than what the sequels went for, and they were right to change it. I will perfectly say.
I feel like this is one of those systems where it's like, you didn't really need this. This just adds...
Again, early installment weirdness. This was the first of this type of game they were doing. I mean, like, even for From Software in general, like doing a non-sim focused like mecha game, like they didn't really do anything quite like this. You know, I mean, they were working on Metal Wolf Chaos around the same time, but that still has more in common with Armored Core in general, just because you still have to manually aim. But even then, it's like frame grind for the Dreamcast still has isn't really comparable to this, and obviously Murakumo Renegade Mech Pursuits isn't either.
And in this game, they're trying to make the mechs feel like the mechs too. It's
like,
you don't want. You don't want
being very fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we know which one's your favorite, obviously, so I figured I'll throw you a bone on this one.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. In fact, let's load up on the Gundams that we do have. So we got Death Scythe, we got New Gundam. Sure, we'll throw in the Tall Geese as well, and Zeta. There you go.
Yeah.
Funny how that worked out. We actually got like a full 4 Gundams. Even interesting to note as well is like we have like our player unit, but then 3 friendlies. The 3rd friendly would get nixed in the future games, but like the trade-off on that is that the friendly units are actually have more of a direct presence and like actually are useful to you in the field in future games compared to how they are here. Yeah. Especially because they introduce combination attacks, which oh man, that'll be a fun thing to show off once we get to Ace 2. Look at him go. Look at...
Yeah.
Like, my brain just replaced it with the, like, Duo Maxwell's English voice actor. Like that's how ingrained for nostalgia purposes the Gundam Wing dub is in my brain. And you even get like a MIDI instrumental version of the Just Communication.
Oh yeah, I love MIDI remixes, like unironically.
Yeah, I mean it's what you expect in a game like this from Bam Presto.
Mm-hmm.
So, like these units are like we can't really find them unless we like get in like close like eye contact range and things like that, which is what the mission data kind of indicator is. Like when it's maxed out like that and giving us that error, that means like these brain-powered units are now actually like are now visible, and we got to take them out.
Are you like? I missed it. Are you underwater for this mission?
Yes, we are.
Oh, that's a big crate. Oh,
I forget if we were supposed to blow that up or not. Again, like I didn't really do much in the way of like prep or rehearse for like some of these missions.
so we can just talk about the cool robots, like how cool that's like. So, what is your favorite Gundam Wing unit?
Oh, that's a tough one. It's been a while when I've like just thinking about it. Because I do think even like younger as a kid, I probably would have thought, yeah, the like the Death Scythe for the obvious edgy reasons.
Yeah.
But trying to think about it, fuck, I'm not sure. I guess maybe like the Tall Geese or the Epion. I feel like I think I remember like being more into like the units that were introduced as part of like later in the series, rather than the original 5.
Yeah, there's some good designs in those later episodes. Also, did they just teleport?
Yep, like that's the whole deal with the units and brain powered. So I'm just going to find the remaining units that I can, rather than try and like do anything with those crates.
Yeah, I'm not even sure what those crates are for, like why they're even there.
Like I guess
Did you?
like maybe they were salvaged that like these units were like trying to get and were like supposed to intercept. I guess that it is what it's supposed to be, like E2 crates or something like that. I wish there was a way to bring up a map though. That was like a nice thing that the later games did, where you pause the game and it shows you the map of your entire surroundings.
Okay, I think I know a good way to put it. Like this game is, since this is the first game in a series, it's kind of stuck between being a sim and being arcadey, and the later games just completely lean more into the arcadey nature.
100%. Alright, more enemies. And yeah, again, it's like I'm having to keep catching myself every time, where it's like whenever I pass by an enemy that I am like going to basically dash away from them, I instinctually want to just press the button to attack them. Except that in this game, like I said, you just shoot away from them because you're shooting in your facing direction. Like even going back to the kind of weird sim nature of this game, like even when you're like boosting around in the enemy like in a circle, the direction that you're circling them will have an impact on like which weapon you are firing based on if it's in your left or right hand. Because ideally, you want the side of your mecha that is facing the enemy that you're circling to actually be facing them, because that means like your firing arm will have an easier time hitting them. Mm-hmm. In this case, with Death Scythe, with like its primary attack, like I gotta go around it like counterclockwise because he attacks with his left hand, because the right one's dedicated to the scythe all the way.
Yeah, that's some jank. That's some capital J jank right there.
I don't know. I kind of accept the idea of it, like if you're approaching it from like a sim idea. But I mean, like again, the bigger problem with it is that like it doesn't have the feature that later games do, where if you are dashing and you try to attack in a way where like the animation is just not going to be able to line up properly, they'll like change into a slow backwards dashing animation where they're more vulnerable. Which that obviously makes sense. But I'm a weirdo that is into like the minutia of like making these sort of like weird player models and control scheme entirely because these are robots. They're not human beings.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to...
And are you still trying to find, like, the enemies or something?
Yeah, I think so, but it's... Yeah, like, guys, I'm trying to use, like, the mission data thing as, like, a sonar. Unless it's really expecting me to...
Maybe?
Oh, I'm supposed to pick it up like that. Oh, that is a
Okay.
weird contextual thing.
Listen, y'all. This game is Japanese. You can't blame us.
If anything, blame me for not taking enough time to practice these early missions before we went into this stream. Like, blame it on that, and blame it on Turbo Overkill just taking up so much of my time, because that game is fucking sick. Yeah, just cutting these dudes up with a scythe doesn't get old.
It's also been a long while, but I also remember the environments definitely get better in the later games too.
I mean, like, yeah, they do, but it's also the sort of thing where, like, the mission design and how they're utilized, it becomes a lot simpler as a result.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, they become more and more arcadey.
Yeah. That's our special ability, which is done by clicking in both analog sticks. That's the HDM. I forget what the H refers to. But naturally, if we were playing as New Gundam, that would obviously refer to something like the I fields. And if we were playing as Leisner, that would activate the VMAX system. Like, it's like, I appreciate, like, this is briefly. I know you don't like hearing me, like, give justified criticisms about it, but going back to Zoe 2 for just a brief moment, like, how that game has so many weapons that you can't really have easy access to them all the time without, like, briefly pausing the game to load up a quick menu to select them. I appreciate the Another Century's episode games going out of the way to build the control scheme around making sure that you have all of your weapons readily accessible. And you don't have to slow down the action at all if you want to switch to a particular weapon for a certain use case.
I think it also helps that, like, just in Another Centuries, you have more than one mech, so they can divide the weapons and styles among all of them, instead of just having it based on one.
Yeah, as it is, like, all your units, on average, are expected to have stuff like, like a primary ranged attack and a primary melee attack, which are both shared by the same button. It just changes based on what your range is to the target. You have, like, your secondary attack, which is on circle. Then you have, like, your auxiliary, like, weapon attacks that are assigned to L1 and L2. And then there's the special abilities, which is assigned to clicking in both analog sticks. Yeah, so there they go, talking about the E2 resource, which is, like, what we were trying to salvage from, like, these mecha that were, like, trying to capture it, like, intercepting these subs and, like, looting their cargo.
So is there like any of the crossover element like you see in this one?
Like with I'm pretty sure they're as in, like, just like weird, like, plot points or character moments from, like, separate series just basically converging on itself.
Yeah.
I'm not be surprised if there was, but again, like, I would not really be able to, like, surmise the context behind it.
Yeah, I realized after I asked that, I was like, oh wait, no, we wouldn't know either way.
Yeah. Like the thing that I still appreciate the most, obviously, is just the fact that, you know, just that these units are recreated as good as they are in this game, and how it contrasts, interestingly, like one of those like ever-present design decisions that Super Robot Wars has always had. Some would say to the point that like it has been like the sort of thing that has made some people stupidly like not want to touch the series, and it's the fact that in Super Robot Wars all the units are super deformed. But
Yeah.
we all understand why it's like that. The reason why they set it up like that is because it's a grid-based strategy RPG. These robots in their own series are of different sizes. It would be super busted if you had like some units that only took up one square, and then other units, in order to be size accurate, were as big as the fucking map.
Yeah, like in SRW games, you have units like Votems, which is tiny. Those are tiny units.
They're like the smallest any of them can ever be.
Yeah, and if you put them against like something like Gunbuster, it's like an ant next to it. You can't have that.
It's so true. Whereas here, in Another Century's episode, because it's real time and and the maps are so huge, they're not grid based, and the appeal is that you directly control the mecha of your choice. Not only are the designs of them accurately represented, but so is their size. Leisner is smaller than all of the units we have played as up to this point. Like just look back through the footage and you see how tall it was in like the door frame of the hangar compared to like the Death Scythe, and like that's immediately apparent. Tall geese? But we already have tall geese.
That's an imposter tall geese. Just means you gotta blow it up.
Time paradox.
Also another thing about like SD in those games is it's probably easier to animate, make all those elaborate animations too.
Yeah,
That's my guess.
I imagine so as well. Like if they're able to smartly divide it, where they're not animating like the units, like they're not animating as if like the entire body itself is a single frame. Like they can make it up of individual pieces.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's not a Super Robot Wars game, but it's obviously inspired by it in terms of animation. But Hardcore Mecha does that like most noticeably, and it does it really well.
Where they animate like limbs and parts instead of like the full thing, right?
Yep. Yeah, and like just tweens of those particular elements. Yeah, that game's neat. Like that is the best indie mecha game I will point to, because it is made by people where you can tell 100% they understand the whole fantasy and mythos of like the genre. Like they aren't approaching it from the surface level element of robots cool. You know, they're not the dude in the fucking Gundam meme that goes, "Wow, cool robot," and misses the points.
Yeah. There's more than just cool robots. The cool robots is just a part of it.
Yeah. It's the characters. It's the theatric. It's like the pathos of being able to take like subjects that like people would somehow think like can only ever be done well if they are in nuanced prestige television or some shit. Or games that are trying to poorly emulate it, like The Last of Us.
Also, like,
and
I
just
know
be
people...
like, no, you can make it simple and approachable, and it still has that same emotional core.
And also, that just reminds me, like, whenever people talk about G Gundam, I know why they talk about the funny stuff.
Yeah,
and
they talk
it is
about
a
how that
ridiculous
horse
show.
Gundam is piloted by a horse.
It's like, yes, the show is ridiculous. There's so much stupid shit in it, but it's got a message to it still.
Yeah, like proxy war isn't a viable excuse for a traditional war.
Also, Kenzie, I
you
agree,
can overcome anything with the power of love.
Exactly. And sometimes you just need to punch people to get that message across.
Absolutely.
Also, yeah, I agree. Like Kenzie, I love this song. It's, I think, my favorite song from Gundam.
But yeah, I love the Lasner. It was my favorite unit in Another Century's episode 2, and unsurprisingly, even with this game's particular like weird implementations of its systems, it is still my favorite.
It's just a cool robot. Look at it just fly around.
Yeah.
Is it like?
And we didn't even get the opportunity to show off the VMAX system, but oh well. Maybe at some point.
Well, there's always time, I think.
Yeah. Oh, look at that. Relina trying to talk down her brother.
Yeah, that's never gonna work. If you've never watched Gundam Wing, never rewatched that show. That show's kind of insane. It's kind of nuts.
I mean, it's also nuts to the extent that, like, people will gas it up as being an absolute great one just because they watched it on Toonami when it was new. Which, to be fair, I was one of those.
Mm-hmm.
But you obviously forget after a while that it's like, it starts off with the premise that it is, like, engaging and done well enough, but then it is, like, systematically going off the rails, like, every 10 episodes.
Yeah, and then Hero blows himself up again for, like, the 5th time.
And then Zex decides to emulate Char and drop a colony. Although that's at the very end. Like, I think that was the point I realized where even though I had not seen Char's counterattack at that point, still haven't seen any of UC Gundam in full, which is a fact I'm still going to act weirdly proud of just to show people that I don't need to watch that like right away to have my opinions on Mecha be validated when I still watch way more unique shows than any of them do. But it's the sort of thing where even I could tell it's like, oh yeah, you're just pulling from the well of, like, the same over-the-top, like, drama bullshit that, like, your predecessors have done before you.
Except more insane somehow. Oh, how about Wu Fei, who never decides on a character ever,
yeah,
or a reason to fight?
And the funny thing is, like, every time they also try to replicate that aspect in any of the Super Robot Wars games, or even these games in particular, because it's still missing all the other elements about Wing's story, because it has to factor in all these other characters, it really does make him come off as just the whiniest, indecisive bitch ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, it is ridiculous. I mean, like, Gundam Wing is worth a watch. It's not, but I would say it's almost worth a watch for the same reason that it's worth watching Death Note. It's not something you're expected to go into with the idea of being like, oh yeah, this is a great seminal show. No, you're in it for the cheese.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, even in Gundam, there's 2 levels of bad. There's Gundam Wing, which is, I'm having a great time.
Yeah.
I'm laughing
then there's
so hard.
Destiny.
And then, which is, I hate this. This is miserable.
Yeah.
Please, I don't want to watch this anymore.
It is still fucking insane how it was like, I think it was Super Robot Wars Z, I think that it had Seed Destiny. And then, like, that game effectively got, like, accolades on its own just for the fact that they took the plot of Seed Destiny, changed one aspect of it, while still combining the rest of it with all the plot elements of these other robot series, and it suddenly became, like, not as hateable.
I gotta be honest, in Z, when you had, like, that match off of when you fought against your own troops, like, you know, in Z, you either go with, like, Kira or the other guys.
Yeah, you always have, like, those split paths.
Yeah, you have a split path. So one of the missions is just you fighting your other units, which was kind of cool. I can't think of many SRW games that did that.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's not often when it happens, but, like, you know, but if you want, like, an easy way to, like, provide, like, an emotional gut punch to, like, a game where like, it's all about, like, a group of characters that you're following the whole way through, like an RPG or whatnot, being forced into a position where you have to fight them, those characters that you have been like improving and leveling up or whatever along the way. Yeah, that could be really effective.
SRW games kind of do that a lot with their series.
Definitely.
Also, like, one of my favorite things is also whenever they have Evangelion in the roster, and you have like the other characters like Ryoma or Koji going up to him and going, "You're my little brother now. We're gonna protect you."
Yeah, it's like everyone loves it when Evangelion shows up in Super Robot Wars, because it gives everyone the satisfaction of what people have wanted with those characters, where they finally have a proper support network.
Exactly. Oh, you're fighting the Talgies again.
Yeah, like he's still not had enough. Actually, wait, hold on. I forget if I'm even like replaying the exact same mission or not. I forget.
I think you might be replaying the same mission. Maybe. This looks like the same mission.
Maybe. I guess we'll know for sure once we get to the end of mission cutscene.
Maybe it's just like an excuse to listen to this song again.
That said, I just wish that the game would like give me VMAX to work with right now, so I could make even quicker work of this dude.
Do you have to build up to it or something?
I think so, or at least like kill enough enemies. Or maybe it's just like not given to me for like some other reason as a result of like how early this is in the campaign.
Maybe. We can't tell. I think.
Yeah. Again, it's like I have an easier time telling, even with the language barrier, what's going on in Ace 2 or 3, just because I've played those more, naturally.
Wait.
Oh yeah, this is the same one.
Yeah, this is the same one. The same
hold on, what the hell?
Whoops.
Well, whatever. Yeah, honestly, I think we at least gave like a good glimpse as far as like how like the campaign works when you're playing the missions in order, and now you have like the specific moments where you can like rendezvous and swap out like your different units and whatnot. So, well, let's try something else. Well, we'll like go into free mission and just like try one of the later ones. Test my luck on what it has to offer. Oh yeah, let's do space combat, because that's a thing in this game.
Oh, they are.
Oh yeah, it's you don't have quite the amount of inputs for it to totally be like 6 degrees of freedom like it's a Descent game. But your Y-axis turning with the camera is unrestricted, which means you can totally dash around and like slash at enemies while upside down. It's a feature of all the PS2 and Other Centuries episode games, and it's great.
I was really hoping we get beyond the
beyond. But yeah, here's what I was talking about. This is all with the right stick. Like, I love this. And it always bothers me so much how like Another Centuries episode games that like came after this, like on PS3 and PSP, just did not have this. There was even a game where on PS3 by FromSoft that was based on Gundam Unicorn, and it actually has like the same core like gameplay concept of Another Centuries episode down to the controls, but like a lot more. It kind of gets back to what this game was going for, where it's a bit where there's a bit more of an emphasis on trying to make things a bit more simulation-y. But even in that game, you still cannot. Your Y-axis movement is still like restricted, like it's on the ground. Like up is always up in that game, and it's so annoying. Anyway,
seems a little disorienting too.
Oh, but it's cool.
Yeah, it is cool. Okay, I got
You-
I got a question. What's up?
Yeah, but I was just like, you know what's also cool? The new Gundam.
What? Yeah, the new Gundam is cool. I kind of like this as I hmm, between the new Gundam and Sazavi, I kind of like the Sazavi a little more.
Of course, you would like the Xeon unit more.
Listen,
Totally not
Zaku's are
implying
cool.
anything by that.
I know. Zaku's are cool.
The Zaku's are cool, totally got and like as well as the Doms and the Hygox.
The Doms are like Ox.
Totally good and normal names for anything.
I'm glad you agree with me, Kenzie.
Look at that, we got dummies and we got fin funnels, all that shit.
Yeah.
Like we are loaded.
Also, like, so is there a mission where you stop a colony drop by any chance?
In this game, I don't think so. The penultimate mission of Another Century's Episode 3 is that. Yeah, because you just reenact the end of Char's counterattack, except instead of all the new type piloted mobile suits trying to push it back, it's literally your entire roster, including Shin Robo.
And that's why it rules. Also,
yeah,
hey, Sammy.
If anything, it makes more sense that way. In fact, forget all the other dudes, like Shin Getter would just stop the Axis colony drop by itself.
Probably.
This
is not...
Yeah, no, this isn't the end. This is the first space mission of the game, and it exists to highlight how you can, like, it's a bit dizzying because what's up is completely relative to your perspective when in space. Like so.
Also, we're just... Oh, yeah, that's this... Oh, yeah.
Okay, I promise I'll try and stop that.
I'm feeling a little sick now.
Whoops. Yeah, space. The one place that has been uncorrupted by capitalism.
Need more funnels.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Leisner is here and trying to fuck us up.
Oh my god, yeah, you're just spinning around for there.
Yeah, because this...
What? Because what?
Yeah, just because, like, as soon as I heard the music, like, that's the same music that always plays whenever Leisner activates VMAX. So I was like, you know, it's like that meme of, why do I hear boss music? It's that. It's like, I just had that moment.
Oh, I realize this game doesn't have double Zeta, does it?
It doesn't. No, I don't think any of the, I don't think any of the games ever really had it. Like in Another Century's Episode, like they go for Zeta and Char's counterattack, and that's it.
I guess in 3 you kind of get original Gundam.
Yeah, you do get the RX-78 too, which is a nice touch, but that's obviously again another one of those post-game unlocks. So yeah, unfortunately, we do not have Puru Puru.
No Puru Purus. And no.
And no. Oh god, what's the name of that Xeon chick in Double Zeta that I always see with like the pink hair that like this thing? Haman?
Yeah, Haman.
Yeah, that's her. Yeah, but unfortunately we don't get her here as well either. It is what it is. But at least here, when going through free mission, because we don't have to specify which mecha we bring with us on our ship, we can just switch between all of them freely and not have to worry about like repair costs naturally.
Well, that is good.
Yeah. You know, yeah, we'll just go with this random one and pilot an Estevalis. I forget if like there's like a particular Haman is haram, apparently. But yeah, look at that. Like, see, that's an even different launch sequence, because like he doesn't just walk up to the because it's one of the ladies from the Desco that's like piloting it, because Akito's piloting the Black Selena, because it's the fucking Prince of Darkness. That bullshit.
Listen, even me, with my edgy loving cards, I kind of did not like Prince of Darkness. Even when I saw it, I was like, "This is bad."
Yeah,
it's kind of bad.
This is not what you come to the Desco for. Like, these are not; those are not the characters.
Why did you decide? Oh no, the worst part about the movie is that there is an in-between, but the in-between is like a Japan-only game or something.
Yeah, it's a Japanese-only game for the Saturn.
Yeah.
Like, what a great... Like, that is, like, one of my favorite mecha anime from the 90s, straight up. Nadesco, like, you mentioned it to anyone, it comes off as, like, such a dark horse pick for a lot of people, but, like, it is subversive of, like, the genre and knowledge of it in ways that, like, I greatly appreciate. But it's only a TV series, and, like, their idea of following it up was, like, an in-between game that's, like, for the Sega Saturn in Japan only, and I don't think anyone cares enough to, like, try and translate it. And then there's the movie that is infamous for, like, basically killing all interest in it, except people that play these games, because Banpresto just always has access to these IPs.
I agree with Sumi. Give me more Gekiganger 3.
Absolutely. Like that's the whole reason why it contributes a lot to, like, that show being so good, because I mean, like, the idea of a military ship with, like, high powered, like, mecha as real world weapons, manned by a private civilian staff is nothing new, but it's played up like in ways that it's like they know it's such a dumb concept, and then they just roll with the idea of being like, yeah, these people think they're in a mecha anime. More specifically, some of them think they're in a super robot show, but life is not like that. But also, tell that to the villain faction who had nothing to do in the Jupiter colonies except watch the super robot show that they based their entire culture around it.
To the point where they make their mechs based on that show.
Yeah. And also really highlights, like, God, even more when you realize just the problem of media illiteracy these days, and how some people will go to great lengths, even when they're watching something that is absolutely condemning their point of view. Some right-wing chud will just go through, like, some mental gymnastics to be like, no, this is actually total validation of, like, my beliefs in politics. Squid Games is about communism because everyone wears the same uniforms.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, no shit, like, the fucking Jovians would end up going that same route, where it's like, as long as we believe our own justice, then, like, based on what we've seen in Gekiganger 3, that we're always in the right. And then, of course, also basing their beauty standards on the main heroine from the series, which I think is also another piece of, like, dark comedy when you think about, like, the kind of insane, like, beauty standards that people already have. And just being like, they don't want, when they want, like, a girl for themselves, they don't want an actual human being. They just basically want the equivalent of a doll.
And then the movie comes out and just tosses that all out in the trash. It's
yeah.
Like, nope.
Again, I want to know, is there something we're missing with Prince of Darkness that the reason it's always included in like, various Super Robot Wars games is because the writing team is pulling a Seed Destiny and just changing a detail or two that suddenly makes all those elements make sense? Like, I think they do. I've read because I am who I am, and I'm a giant nerd about these things. Yeah.
You know how, like, we didn't, like, back in the day, we didn't get these games localized. So instead, what I had to rely on was in those game facts summaries. So those are what I read. Yeah.
Some say I still do that to this very day when playing these games.
Yeah. So the vibe I get is that they mix in Prince of Darkness with a lot of other series too. And just in more clever ways than they did in the actual movie.
Yeah, that would not be surprising. Also, goddammit, all this talk just makes me want to replay Geki. I meant to say rewatch instead of replay. And secondly, my mind just immediately went to calling the Desko Geki Gengar 3. That's how broken my brain is.
Just flex and show off they could do better. Well, that's the
point
thing
is I want to rewatch the Desko because it's fucking good, and I want more excuses to recommend that show to people.
Yeah, it's a good show. More people should watch that show.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, so I mean, just flex and show off they could do better. And also I just like how those games are just an excuse for people to write their own mecha fan fiction and make it official.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
The rules.
100%. Let's see. Let's find one last unit to show off. It's like, God, like, yeah, just going back through the whole roster of Ace 1 makes you, after spending so much time in 2 and 3, makes you realize how comparatively slim pickings this stuff is.
It's not a lot.
Yeah.
More like approved, yeah.
It's like, yeah, good enough. I mean, these companies holding the rights to it aren't doing anything else with it. Might as well make it our own. Fuck it. Yeah, because I'm trying to think. We already showed off Leisner. We did it. We played as an Estabalis. We already played as the new Gundam. We already showed off at least like some of like one of the units from Gundam Wing.
I guess. Dragonar.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Oh wait! I'm sorry. Go back. Do they have the Bound Dog?
The Bound Dog?
Go back. Right. That's Bound. Oh, that's not the Bound Dog. God damn it.
Well, yeah. I mean, like again, they're still like Zeta Char's counterattack era units. And you know what? Actually, we'll close this out with Elgine.
Yeah.
We'll do that. Let's see. What would be?
Yeah, it is the Bound Dog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll just go straight to this random one, see what it gives us.
Yeah, also, Sumi, Brain Powered is in this game. The Tomio show that most people don't want to talk about.
Their loss. Editor's notes, I've not watched Brain Powered. I keep meaning to.
It's not good. It's not good, OP. It's really not good.
Yeah, whatever. And whatever. I guess I'm not stressing it as much, like whether or not like I'll watch it for my own curiosity or not. I still need to get back to like my Brave series marathon. The horny banger OP isn't worth the suffering. Fair enough. Whatever. So yeah, playing as Elgime. This is an interesting example of kind of how like the boost function can sometimes differ depending on the unit you play as. Notice how it's like all the units we've played up to this point, when we boosted around, they were always like turning and boosting in a forward direction. This, on the other hand, with Elgime, its boost feature makes it so that when you're not locked on like this, when you engage boost, your forward direction's always locked forward, and you can boost around quickly in like omnidirectionally speaking. And then when you lock on, that means you can boost around at high speeds and have an easier time lining up your attacks.
Does Elgime have anything special about it, or is it just
like just really powerful weapons and like that aforementioned like omnidirectional boosting?
Right. Yeah.
Which that sort of system would get implemented in like into like some other units in like the later games. Like I know the Macross units when they're in Batroid form also employ the same boosting. And if we were to play as Dragonar, actually, I'm pretty sure it's still the same even in this, same as in like Another Century's Episode 2. But the thing with Dragonar is that because of how that unit is set up, I think even the Cloudbreaker might be the same way. but it's like when those units are airborne, they're always propelling forward. Like Dragonar 1, especially because of the wings that are mounted on its back. Like almost like in an airplane wing kind of formation. But the idea with Dragonar is that because of that, it's able to ascend and descend with R1 and R2 like a lot faster than all other units on average.
Also, speaking of the Macross units, when you get to those other games, I love how they just implemented the change forms of the units in those games. It's so cool.
It's so cool and like fast. It'll be fun to get to that again, especially as like because I had showed off earlier this year the Super Dimension Fortress Macross game by Sega AM2, which was like that game is really great. And part of what makes it great is that, like, compared to other games that feature playable Macross units, is that it stands out a lot more for having, like, a dedicated, like, flight-based model at the center of its, like, gameplay, and then, like, building the mecha stuff around it. Whereas when you play as the Macross units in Another Century's episode, and even in some of their dedicated Macross games afterwards, like the PSP games by Artthink, is like, yeah, those are clearly mecha game combat focused first by its design, like just like this game is, and it happens to have like the flight mode implemented anyway. Very arcadey, naturally.
Yeah. Are you fighting above the Guana Highlands? Maybe?
I just know it looks cool.
I'm gonna say yes, Sumi.
It's not as pretty as like the Lost World, I think it's called, from Dead or Alive 3. That fucking arena, where it's just like you're fighting on top of like these like thin grassy green mountains, and you could just knock people off endlessly onto like another mountain directly below it and never reach ground level. And the music's really good here as well. When it comes to the music, that's going to be a fun thing to show off with 2 and 3, because like in a rare move for these sort of Bam Presto giant robot crossovers is that Another Century's Episode 3 and a special re-release version of Ace 2 have versions that let you play the game with the original vocal versions of like the different anime tracks.
Yeah, it was the first game, I think that was the first kind of crossover game that did that too. Where they let you have vocal tracks.
Yeah, and it's specifically because of how popular it was for Ace 3 when it did that they did the re-release of 2 as like special vocal edition, and like of the 2 versions of Ace 2, that's the one that I have a physical copy of.
Ooh, nice.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't that expensive to get, in all honesty. Like for even today, I think it's still not that hard to get. Like for all the woes about like collectors just ruining the used game market over the past few years, like some games, especially when you look at what they have to offer in the Japan only space. Another Century's episodes, those games are like consistently cheap. They're very low cost, which is very appreciated.
That's nice, at least, yeah.
I have to imagine it's because they just printed a fuck ton of copies regardless of how much it was going to sell.
Yeah.
And we just gotta deal with this unit, but bigger.
You really get to see the size difference of the mechs in these games.
It's just stuff like this is why I wish that Another Century's episode could have continued and still been as good as these PS2 games, because the direction it felt like they were trying to go in over time, especially when they introduced Shin Robo in the third game, is like my dream that is never going to be fulfilled at this point because of the fucking Super Robot Wars producers' fuckery with this series, is that we're never going to get that Ace game that just has, like, a roster that is one-to-one equivalent with, like, some of the best Super Robot Wars rosters, like from the Z or Alpha series. Like there's a lot of great units that have shown up in these games, but like so much of them, especially in this first entry, still feels like it's squarely on the level of those side Super Robot Wars games. Like the ones that they'll put out on handhelds and have a random letter as the subtitle.
Yeah, we're not gonna get a game with like Zabungle in it, which is the biggest shame.
We're not gonna get a game like this with Gurren Lagann in it. And have it go all the way to Tengen Toppa.
Oh, that would have been a spectacle.
Yeah.
Right there.
I'm not even of the mind that is like Gurren Lagann's the fucking greatest ever, but it's still a really good Super Robot show. And that final stretch of episodes is what cements it. Yeah, that is. Yeah. Like, this is a good game. Like, this is admittedly like the most I have played of the game, like in a single stretch, compared to 2 and 3. But like, it's still always good to go back to this one to just be like reminded of what ideas they had when they started out and were figuring out like basically just making a real-time Super Robot Wars, and the fact that this was, you know, for all my gripes about Zone of the Enders, like it is the sort of thing where like its existence was at least like important in like I think giving certain developers the idea that they could make a mecha game like this, where it is this virtual on inspired experience, but also one that like captures like the high flying, like complete disregard for gravity that like so many mecha fight scenes have, especially as we were like this game came out in 2005, you know, all the way like in the mid 2000s, like, you know, like the era of stuff like Eureka 7 and like modern Gundam of the time. Like all this other stuff where just things were getting flashier and flashier. And like that, like this was the start of something great, and it became absolutely great with like the 2 sequels that came after this. And then basically everything else was just like it's not anywhere close to this.
Unfortunate, yeah. And now we're just stuck in. We just have the strategy games, and I guess gacha games every now and then.
Yeah, we just gotta hope and pray that like BB Studio is just like doing anything of interest with like these sort of anime mecha properties. Oh well. And also, I guess it's like so much time has passed that like I no longer care enough about like wanting From Software to get back to this stuff, because I feel like again so much of like those design ideas have atrophied in favor of just what they have found success with Souls.
Maybe someday someone's gonna be like, I'm gonna make my own big Super Robot Ace game or something. I don't know.
With blackjack and hookers.
Hookers.
In fact, forget the game. Oh well.
Wow. Hey, but hey, the stuff we got was pretty cool at least. So
yeah,
there is
like,
that.
Yeah, like just the amount of like different like good mecha games that we got during this time is, you know, just another feather in the cap of the PS2 being the greatest game console ever. The fact that it was able to facilitate so many different types of like weird and interesting games, in addition to like the big AAA award-winning stuff of its time. Just nothing else like it. But that was fun. Thanks a ton for hanging out on this one, Neph.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, we'll be looking forward to having you back for the rest of the Ace trilogy, because oh man, there's gonna be even more to talk about when it comes to giant robots, especially the ones we recognize and really love, because that's where they start to get their due.
Oh boy, is there? Yep.
Waiting for the Mobile Suit Musume gotcha. Jesus. Like, I'd sooner take a Mobile Suit Musume that isn't a gacha, just have it be like, oh god, that would actually be a thought. I just like this gameplay system with like the kind of roster of Ace 3, but with like, yeah, just Mobile Suit Musume. It's just like replace them all with like girls just like bearing like visual accoutrement of like the giant robots they're supposed to represent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that would give like some anti-anime, anti-horny people a stroke, I guess. That'd be fun to see.
Also, since we're talking about gacha, I will never forgive the SRW games, the gacha games, for having some of the coolest picks ever, but they're all stuck in a gacha. Like they have a fucking Pop Team Epic mech in those games.
Oh, that's right. The fucking Obari mech, biggest huge guy combo. The fact that it never made it into the fucking mainline game. Also reminded me as well, where it was like there was like a tie-in with like Get a Robo Arc, where like I guess like they included that unit and maybe like some extra story stuff that may or may not have followed up after the anime. I forget, but the whole point was like why couldn't we have had that in Super Robot Wars 30 and not to Get a Robo Armageddon for the billionth fucking time?
No, it's stuck in gacha game hell. Sorry, we can't have nice things.
Yeah, we're never allowed nice things. It's like someone has to actively go out of the way to break the rules in order to make nice things for us. That's basically what it comes down to. Because anytime someone gives us in a game like something that is like the absolute nicest thing ever, we're basically guaranteed to never get anything like that ever again. At least not for a while. Capcom gave us DMC 5, but we're still going to have to wait another decade for number 6. Yeah, let that thought sink in. I've already had to. Me and all the other people I know, like in DMC Discords I'm in.
Listen, I'm getting Dragon Dogma 2, so I'm happy.
All right, yeah, that's
I
fair.
got DMC 5.
You're still paying Itsuno. You know, you're still giving him money for making the games he wants to and enjoying them. I respect it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's it. Next week's Year of the Mecha is going to happen in a few days rather than a full week because Millennium Cyborg is going to be back. We're going to be checking out Remote Control Dandy SF. The SF stands for science fiction. That'll be another one of those good old goofy remote control robot games, not made by Sandlot, weirdly enough. Yeah, it's on Wednesday, just kind of because that's basically like the other free day I always have to work with when doing these sort of streams. And then so won't be too long until then. And it's another game that only has Japanese text. So again, I'm gonna have to, especially after this, step up to make sure that I am up to date on just like remembering like what all the text menus in that game are, what the basic plot synopsis is, whether it matters or some shit. Because the real appeal of that game and what I want to show off is just the insane control decision they go with, where instead of switching off control between your human avatar and your giant robot, fuck you have to move both of them at once. Figure it out.
Oh my god.
Pat your head and rub your tummy at the same time, motherfucker. I dare you.
That's probably going to be a fun time.
Yeah. Fortunately, I'm good enough at doing it that it won't be like an embarrassing thing to play through on my end. Will there be more friends suffering? No. There's no one like there's no one like Nanao who's basically getting her place of employment stomped on in every mission. There's nothing like that. It's
no. Aw.
Yeah, but again, it's like it's a weird retro-looking sci-fi mecha experience with some goofy but still really appealing giant robot designs. It'll be a fun one, I promise.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks everyone for stopping by to check out another Centuries episode. See you next week for more mecha action. Take care.
Goodbye all.
Game over.